And welcome to Talking Hawks, where we talk all things Hawthorn with Brad and Matt and Chris. And sometimes we bring along a very special guest. We have with us the big, the great, the amazing, the illustrious Gary Ayres. How are you, Gary?
Yeah, well, Brad. G'day, Chris. G'day, Matt. Love that introduction. And, I'm probably looking a bit bigger, but not through muscle. Probably big boned, I reckon.
Mate, very exciting to have you here. As we were preparing doing our homework for the show, I have to put up the all of the accomplishments that you've ever had in your career, and I ran out of space to put them all, mate. As you can see down the bottom, I couldn't fit in the extra things like the coach of Geelong, the coach of assistant coach of Essendon, the current coach of Port Melbourne. Couldn't fit it all in. So sorry. But mate, you're certainly the most decorated person we've had on the show, and I'm sure Dipper will be upset to hear that.
Well, the big Italian will be too, because he always used to spruik that he was born to play finals. So, of course, it's nice to potentially get one over the great man. But no,
how many
really
more
appreciate
medals
it.
does he have?
Was lucky enough to win 2.
No, does he have? How many does he have?
Oh, him? No.
Yeah.
Well, Dipper would say that he should have got 1 because he said he was best on ground in the 1978 Premiership win. He reckons he kept Arnold Brightus quiet for the day. So, and as you know, Dipper doesn't mind telling you how good he is.
Mate, you're the very first person to ever get 2 Norm Smith medals, and you are captain finals. So without a doubt.
Yeah, well, again, it's not the individual stuff that you go out to play for. You want to be part of a team success, and all these boys that are going around at the minute in the AFL, that's certainly something that they want to be part of. And I've been lucky, as you boys would know, and I do feel myself very, very lucky. But I guess I probably had the philosophy of wanting to be the best player on the team, not necessarily the best player in the team. And I think there was a lot of guys over the years that were very well conditioned to playing the role that especially Jeansy and then Joycey wanted later on. And we obviously had a lot of real success-driven boys who were mentally tough, mentally strong, and the club were amazing from an administration point of view and selective recruiting. Who would have thought in 1984 a bit of an overweight young lad from Queensland would have went on and been one of the best and all-time greatest goal kickers. And, of course, then you get a Tony Hall from South Australia, and then unfortunately we lose Tony when he goes down in the State of Origin game, and even Colo tackled him, which even probably made it worse. So, and the administration led by John Laritz in my time down there, he was, first class, and Ronnie Cook and Phil Ryan, and obviously the coaches I've mentioned. And yeah, we were born at a wonderful time, I guess, and end up playing in a wonderful era. But finals is what the game's all about. And Hawthorn's successes from probably mid-20s to late 50s, you'd probably testify, was pretty poor. So I remember going down there as a kid, and I guess we were indoctrinated with the values of the Hawthorn Football Club and being a family club. And, of course, we wanted respect because they probably didn't have a lot of respect in the 30s, 40s and 50s. So until John Kennedy came in and as a player, and then, of course, as a coach, and he was just fantastic to set all the Hawthorn family on the path that it's now become.
Yeah, amazing. The culture. There's so much we can talk about tonight. Just to the fans, Gary, just give us a heart if Ayresy was one of your favourite players, because I know I was a young buck at the time, but I loved seeing you streaming down with that mullet flying behind you. And I don't know if they kept the stats in those days of goal assists when you got. How many was it, Brad? Did you look it up? Was 70
goals? 70
yeah,
flat, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how many you would have stolen off Dunstall just to, take the middle. But it was nice seeing a backman come and do that in those days.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. I wouldn't have got too many off the great man because it was him and Dermot inside 50 all those years. So, of course, they were very polite in telling you, don't come down in my forward 50. So we were doing more of the delivery inside 50. But, yeah, they were great guys, great players, magnificent people and human beings. And I think that's another thing, that not only were they unbelievable players, but they were also great people. And I think that's why, again, the attributes that so many of the Hawthorn players had over that period of time, and the club itself was all about making you potentially a better person. And I spent 16 years there, which at the time when I left was probably half my life, really, going down as a 17-year-old. So, and then to walk into an establishment and, Don Scott's there. And, of course, he used to frighten me early days because of his bloody, big, bold, brash sort of style. And I was only a 17-year-old kid. And, of course, then you had the great Lee Matthews, who was winning best and fairest every 5 seconds. And Tucky was probably a year, maybe 8 or 9. And I remember there was plenty of times they said he was too old and too slow, but he kept on playing until he was 38. And you had guys like Calvin Moore, David O'Halloran, Peter Knights, and I can just go on and on and on. So, yeah, amazing. I actually barracked for St Kilda, so it was a bit of a change for me when I did go to Hawthorn. I was lucky enough to be in their zone, boys.
So you debuted as a 17-year-old and you kicked 3 goals in your first game. Would have been a pretty big highlight. And David Parkin congratulated you and said you'll probably never get any of those back. Can you tell us what that was about?
Yes, he did. Just a little bit of a side issue was that you never got told if you're in the seniors or the reserves. You used to actually have to wait up for, remember guys like Jack Dyer and Lou Richards and Bob Davis on league teams. So that could be on at 11 o'clock at night, or if you turn the radio on, I think it used to be on 3DB. So anyway, this particular night, I got a phone call from the chairman of selectors, and of course he said, you're in. So, and I'd only played about half a dozen reserve games coming down as a kid. And of course we're out at Witten Oval or Western Oval. Anyway, I remember running down the race onto the ground, and you go down this very narrow tunnel. And of course, there's probably only maybe 12 or 15,000 there. And of course, as you know, they're one-eyed doggy support as well. To me, it sounded like it was 112,000 running onto the ground, and started on the interchange, which seemed to be what the young kids used to do when they debuted. And anyway, lucky enough to kick a goal with my first kick, and then, of course, went forward after that and was able to get another couple. And to answer your question, I ended up giving a couple of handballs to Lee Matthews, who ended up finishing off the good work. And David Parkin certainly, as you said, well done, son. Good effort to kick 3 goals. But those 2 goals you gave to Lee Matthews, we'll never get those back because Lee doesn't handball. So, but Lee Matthews, you can do anything. 8-time best and fairest. And obviously, for me, he's, amazing. And when Yabby Jeans actually told me that I should go into the back pocket because you can't go any further back in 1981, I actually ended up playing on Lee in a couple of practice games. And my sort of understanding of small forward pocket players was that they wouldn't jump on your head or walk and lay you flat on your backside. So that's what Lee was doing. He was an unbelievable player. And, we saw what he did, and to go on and do what he's done. And now he's a 4-time Premiership player, 4-time Premiership coach. So it just speaks volumes of how great the man is.
Yeah, that's incredible. Now, Ayresy, we've got a few questions coming off the stream here. And for those who are watching, thanks for following. And also, if you've got some questions for the great man, Ayresy, make sure you put them on here. So Easy, we got the first one here from Christian Walker. He's asking you, ask Gary what it's like to run out grand final day.
Yeah, that's a good question, Christian. It's amazing to run out. There's so much that's going through your mind. And when you're actually ready to go out, a lot of it's done through timing. So the coaches have to make sure their final wrap before we go out onto the ground to start the game. And, of course, then they have either side, whether it's Hawthorn or let's say it's Essendon, someone runs out first and, of course, then the other team runs out second. And then you basically run through the banner and, of course, you're soaking it all in. And it's just an absolute sea of, well, lucky enough, yellow and brown or red and black or, blue and white, whoever we played. And I remember in 1984, we ran out first, and, of course, it was against Essendon, and then they ran out second. And it's one of the very, very few times that I've ever heard such a loud noise. And I think there was about 105,000 people there that day. But it's a bit of a nervous time because obviously there's that anticipation and you're a little bit unsure, but it's actually great to finally get on the ground and know that you'll be starting the game shortly. And then, of course, the other unbelievable feeling is when they sing the national anthem. And, of course, you just have that loud roar once whoever sings it on that day is finished. And that 1984 roar, and I remember the other one was in 91 when we actually played out at Waverley, the first time ever, except for this year, that it would have been played outside the MCG, and there was 70-odd thousand, and I'm sure there was 65,000, but it sounded like 165,000. It was that loud. But we got specific instructions that day that the big banner had me and Tucky on it, and, of course, apparently because it was a little bit of a soft spot, happened to be where my chin area was, so everyone was saying before the game, we've got to run through Ayers' chin. We've got to run through Ayers' chin as we ran onto the ground. But no, it's an amazing feeling, Christian, and something I'll never ever forget.
Wow, that's fantastic. Now, George Mehas, he wants to know who was the biggest influence on your career at Hawthorn?
George, probably the two biggest, I guess, influences on my career would have been my family. I came from an unbelievably loving family, my mum and dad and three sisters and a brother. So there was 5 children and my mum and dad. And unfortunately, my father got killed in a tractor accident on the local farm. I was only 19. He was 43. And then Alan Jeans came to the club 12 months later. And I think from my point of view, the way Alan was as a coach, it was wonderful timing. He almost probably became a father figure to me as well because he was a policeman. My old man was a policeman, dabbling in a little bit of farm work as well. And he was a coach that the timing was right for me. He gave me confidence. He knew how to talk to me and what he said. And I just would have done absolutely anything for Alan Jeans. And I'm sure there's a lot of other guys that I've played with over the time that Alan was there, some 10 years, that we were all influenced enormously by him as players, but also too as human beings as well.
Yeah, no, that's great. And one more quick one, mate. I'd love to know this one myself from Scott Williams. Who was the best forward you played on and who was the most physical?
Probably the most physical was Brian Taylor. So big BT. I happened to play on him one day and he did actually get the best of me. He kicks, I think, 6 goals on me one day. And anyway, I went off the ground after the game and, of course, had my tail between my legs. And, again, this gets back to Alan Jeans' ability to man manage. And, of course, I just felt absolutely awful because I'd let the team down most importantly. And Yabby came up to me later on and he said, look, son, he said, I thought you were the best matchup for Brian Taylor. So I didn't feel as bad after that. And maybe he was just being nice anyway. But I did appreciate it enormously. As far as the best forward, look, I was lucky enough to play on some unbelievable forwards. You know, these are guys like Terry Danaher, Paul Vanderhaar, Robbie Flower when he moved from the wing and then would go forward, Trevor Barker when he went from the back line, obviously, to defence, Peter Dacos, Wayne Johnston, Kenny Hunter. So it's pretty hard for me to sort of say who was the best forward because, again, maybe that was just Jeansy. I certainly used to feel when he did the team meetings that, geez, I'm playing on this guy, today. But I think that was Jeansy thought was the best way to get the best out of me. So,
but Azzy, who hurt you the most? Was it BT?
Well, actually, I'll say BT, but I'll also say the little fella who's been at Hawthorn now for a little while, Graham Wright, ended up having a bit of a good day on me too there one day. I think he might have got 3 or 4 goals before Yabby said, hey, you're getting a bit of a post in here, you better get off him. So, but if you're talking goals, Brian Taylor would have kicked the most on me.
All right, and who was your bunny? Who did you own? Come on.
Oh, man. All of them bar Brian Taylor and Graham Wright, put it that way.
I'd love you to go and own Brian Taylor on Roaming Brian and take his spot, Azzy. If you can do that for us, that'd be great.
Please, that'd be great.
Yeah, thanks. And look, in those days, as I said, I've just rattled off some names. Probably not too many people, maybe depending on the age demographic of this wonderful show, would remember a lot of those. But, Kenny Hunter, he was tough. He was so courageous and strong in the air. And Wayne Johnson, well, he went by the nickname The Dominator because he was a big finals player as well. So, and even playing on Reece, David Reece-Jones in the 86 grand final. Yabby gave me a big assignment because Reece had been best on in the 86 second semi. And, of course, he said, you don't have to be quick to play on the wing. He got it right there because I wasn't very quick. But he said, you can read the play all right, son. So you better go out and do your job.
Well, you went out and performed because you got the Norm Smith. Well done. So just change of pace right now. For the guys that don't know, we had a birthday during the week. The great Gary Ayres turned 60. So happy birthday, mate.
Happy birthday.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, well, geez, I didn't get up in that get up later on in the night. I might have to have a few more drinks, and I certainly don't look like that anymore.
Where did the nickname Conan come from for those that are a little bit younger?
Yeah, that was courtesy of Russell Green, actually. So, and Russell was just a great prankster and would certainly liven up any training night or get together for the boys. Anyway, we were training down pre-season at Scotch College, the oval that runs underneath the freeway there, the Monash. Anyway, we basically fill in a little bit of, small talk. And anyway, Rod Lester-Smith and Greenie were talking about a movie they'd watched the night before. And, of course, they said to me, what movie did you watch, Ayres? I go, to be honest, I can't remember. And anyway, they said, we watched this new movie. It was about this ex-bodybuilder, Arnold Schwarzenegger. And he played the guy by the name of Conan the Barbarian. So, of course, anyway, we used to do some circle work. And, of course, all sorts of things used to come out when blokes were running past for an overlap handball. So, anyway, Greenie said, you did watch that show last night, did you, Ayresy? I go, no, look, I didn't, mate. I didn't. So anyway, he ran past a couple of minutes later and yelled out, Conan for the handball. So anyway, of course, it sort of stuck. So Rod Lester-Smith and Russell Green. And then Louis Richards actually went and ran with it in a few articles in the Herald Sun in the day because Louis actually used to like to, as you know, name a few of the boys, whether it was Lethal Lee Matthews or the Flying Doormat or whatever. So, but Russell Green was the instigator.
There you go. Well, look, here it is. Because you're a little bit of a connoisseur, Brad. I don't know if you can bring that up. Here's you back in the day. Let me just looking the part. So some similarities to Arnold there, but as a connoisseur of the mullet back in the day, Gary, here's some modern mullets. So we thought we'd have a little bit of fun and see which one of who's maybe your top 3 there.
I would certainly say the top 3. And again, it's amazing, isn't it? Well, like what is old is new. So it's only taken 30 years to come back into vogue. But I think Bailey Smith certainly rocks a pretty good one there. Who else? I think Liam Duggan, I reckon he'd be second. And I actually don't mind Sam Drapers as well. So probably they'd be my top three. Lyndon Dunn looks like he's got a possum on his head. And Aaron Norton's probably gone just a little bit too hard on the shave bit on the side. And Jasper Pitt, I don't know what he's rocking with there, but it looks like he's got a bit of colour in it.
Oh, very good. You've probably got a few boys down at Port Melbourne that are rocking dues like that, haven't you?
No, we haven't, because obviously, unfortunately, we didn't play this year. But I certainly reckon the boys might have been rolling out a few, because they do certainly change a little bit when we've got some TV games on. They like to get on the TV and look very handsome.
So you don't have any rules like Clarko? Clarko's got the no long sleeves. Do you impose any policies like that? No, you let the boys do what they want?
No, I don't, Chris. Yeah, no. All I just say is if they're wearing the new boots or they've got the new do, they want to get a kick. That's all I say. So, and more often than not, the boys have been able to do that. So, no, I don't. It's the new generation now, Chris. You can't be putting too many things in their head. Footy's a very fundamentally based game.
Yeah. So, speaking of the new generation, Ezzy, what do you think about the current team and where we're at?
Look, obviously, Brad, we're going through some change, and that's going to happen eventually. It's an amazing job that Alistair Clarkson and his support team have done, and obviously the players and the wonderful assets that he's had there for a long, long time. And obviously the selective drafting, I guess you go back to when Clarko first started, and the ability to then bring in players for the now. And I guess Shawnee Burgore is probably a wonderful example. He was basically on one leg when he went to the club, and of course he's now looking like he's going to either get 400 or very, very close to, next year. So it's amazing what the medical staff can do, and Hawthorn's been well renowned for that. So I think it's just a case of where it's very, very hard to keep being the club that you want it to be, and that's winning and having this success all the time, because that's why they got rid of the zones. They brought in drafting because they want it to be much more even. And, Hawthorn's philosophy has been amazing, like to think, a three-peat, consistently challenging for finals. And obviously, even if you look at what they've done this year, I don't know, I've not spoken to anyone, but how difficult would it be to be in a hub and be away from your family? And, of course, obviously it's affected teams, differently. Being away, originally it was only going to be for a short period of time, and, of course, then it ends up being, 3 or 4 months. So, obviously, in some instances, I guess it didn't agree. They've had some injuries. Some of their older players are getting to a point in time where it's more difficult than not to obviously play as they once did, because that happens to everybody. So, but if you go through their statistical history, you would certainly say that he's very, very good at getting back amongst where everyone would like them to be, and that's finals. So, guys like Stratton and Puopolo, and there's a bit of talk about Gunston and Bruce at the minute, but I certainly wouldn't think that would be doable, because, they're guys that they would no doubt need. And, they've got some kids coming through. The Box Hill system's been pretty reasonable, but of course, as we all know, there wasn't a lot of development footy played this year because they were playing those scratchies over in the hubs.
Yeah. So on the coaching side, thanks, Brad. So a couple of years under Sheedy, and I must admit that was very hard to swallow as a Hawthorn supporter.
It's betrayal, Ayresy. How could you betray us like that?
I'll see if I can get up. But while we're talking, did you see Sheedy swapped his assistants a lot over the years? Now, you were there for, I think, a couple. Did you see signs of how Sheedy did that, reinventing himself, perhaps that maybe traits you've maybe seen in Clarko and things that you might have applied in your own coaching approach?
Yeah, see, I'm rocking the mullet down there at Essendon there, Matty, too, see, so it goes with you everywhere, as they would say. Certainly for me, I'd been out of senior coaching for the Adelaide Crows for 12 months, and I had a lot of work that I was doing within the media, and I was giving that a little bit of an opportunity go, I guess. So I just got a phone call out of the blue, and it was the Essendon Footy Club, and it certainly was a bit of a surprise originally. And then when I actually went to Essendon, I thought this could be one of the best things that I've ever been able to do from a learning point of view, because I can tell you, I was 34 when I got the gig at Geelong, which is pretty bloody young. And you think you know a lot about footy, but I can give you the tip, you don't know too much once you get in that hot seat on any given day. And some of the boys at Geelong were only like a year or two younger than me. You know, we're talking about, you know, Gary Ablett Sr. and even probably Buddha Hocking was only a few years younger than me. So when you're in a position to then learn, and this is what I've hopefully prided myself on, I've always been willing to learn. Imagine getting a phone call from Kevin Sheedy, 4-time Premiership coach, and being able to work with him. And what I learned, and don't worry, when you coach, you can actually get a little bit of a knock on your confidence. And what I learned quickly with Kevin was some of the things I'd done for 10 years, 11 years, however long I coached senior AFL, I was doing it right. But if I'd actually tweaked a couple of things after working with Kevin, maybe then I could have been a little bit better in my coaching. And I learned from him that he moved on really, really quickly. You know, he didn't let the loss eat away at him, or he was more about, well, that's gone, you can't do anything about it. Move into getting all your energies now into actually planning the next win. And I thought that was unbelievably good education for me. And I did think originally, I went there for a day or two, and I think they all thought, who's this joker from Hawthorn? We ate him. And within a couple of days, they said, oh, maybe that guy's not too bad. And I think assistant coaching is one of the easiest gigs you can do, because you don't have that extra pressure. Your head's not on the chopping block. And it was probably in a time where there wasn't the mass number of coaches either. There was, head coach, and I was a line coach, a defensive line coach, and I did a bit of opposition analysis. So, and when Matty Knights got the gig, I got the arse, and of course then I fell in at Port Melbourne in the end of 2007, start of 2008.
So Izzy, this is a common question that's coming off the feed here. Hang on, Chris. This is a common question that's coming off the feed here. Is how is this man not had another job at the top level? What's going on there, Izzy?
Yeah, well, that's very nice. It actually looked like Joel. So thanks for that, Joel. I think when you've had two shots at it, which I did with Geelong and the Crows, and I guess I've always probably felt that, as I said earlier on, the thing that turns me on the most in relation to sport is obviously getting the hard jobs, and taking Geelong on after that sort of had that run in the late 80s, early 90s. We made a grand final in my first year, but unfortunately came up against Carlton, who'd only lost 2 games for the year. And I think a few years later, they might have got done for breaches of the salary cap. So maybe we should go down to Geelong and say, hey, we want that cup back in 1995 because they rorted the system. And then going to the Crows as a Victorian. But again, they were business decisions. I love footy. I love being involved. But I never won a premiership. Okay, we won a night premiership at the Crows, but that was the old Wizard Cup, as they used to call it back in the day. So I think Judgy won one at the Hawks there 1 year, I think, from memory. So it probably didn't get you a lot of kudos. But, again, they do show a lot more faith, I guess, in coaches these days, depending on if you've got a very good board, CEO, and, look at Clarko started off, and again, it was a long build. Guys like Dimmer Hardwick at Richmond, they're probably all ready to get rid of him a couple of years ago, and now he's probably the best coach going around, 2 flags. So, I can't really answer it probably in the way that maybe other people know, and I guess I've always been my own man too, and maybe sometimes that's a bit intimidating, but it is what it is. I've had a wonderful 13 years at Port, and the boys down there, they're just awe-inspiring, for what I do down there in a grassroots scenario.
Yeah.
So
if it came up, would you take it?
Look, you'd never say no, but every year the old flickering flame has just got smaller and smaller. So, my time's come and gone, really. It's amazing. how people look at you being 60. If you go to American football, they're employing coaches at mid-50s to late 50s. So, and 25 years or 26 years of coaching experience, I'd certainly think I'm better positioned now than I ever was. But, yeah, I doubt very much that it's ever going to happen again.
All right. During your playing days, I've asked a few other ex-players this, did any other teams approach you with deals to try and move you across from Hawthorn?
No, they didn't, Chris. And I guess approach or speculation, there might have been one maybe, but again, you would have had absolute rocks in your scone if you were going to leave Hawthorn. Although I guess I nearly left, and I'd had a bad year in 1980. As I said, with my father passing away, and I was 19. I kept on tearing my hamstring, and I didn't play much footy at all. And then 1981, I then was married, had a young baby on the way, and Peter Hudson was doing a bit of recruiting for Glenorchy. He was associated with them, and he's laid 20 grand on the table basically and said, we want you to come to Glenorchy. And I went and saw Yabby, and I'd pretty much made my mind up because of, financially, we were getting paid 2/10 of bugger all back in the day. And of course, young baby on the way, all that sort of stuff. Anyway, he said, lad, it'll be the biggest sporting mistake you'll ever make. Well, it just set me back on my heels. And I said, so what are you saying? He goes, you better go away and think about it. And I said, how long? He said, 24 hours. I said, all right. So came back the next day and said, yeah, I'm in, and I'm really going to do what I need to do. He said, look, lad, you just got to play, get your body right, and I'll give you a go. And, I probably played 30, 40 games at that stage. And then obviously over the next 12 or 13 years, I played another 230 and, all the other things that came along. So, as I said before, I owe Alan Jeans that much for setting me on the right path to having a career.
And then Jeans, he also talked you out of taking a playing coaching role at Frankston before you went to Geelong as an assistant.
He certainly did, Chris. It was funny at the time, but although Frankston didn't see it too funny. Rocky Lord.
Yeah, you had a handshake agreement in place, didn't you?
I did. And, of course, I still wanted to play. And Frankston and a couple of other suitors, I think there was Dandenong and maybe Springvale. And anyway, I thought Frankston appealed to me the most. And, of course, anyway, then out of the blue, I got a phone call from Stephen Wells, and Malcolm Blight was looking for an assistant coach. So he said, look, why don't you catch up with Malcolm and we'll have a chat and take it from there. So had a chat to Malcolm and certainly felt very comfortable with Malcolm, and I think Malcolm thought the same. And, of course, I drove back home, and, of course, I jumped on the phone to Yabby and I said, hey, Yab, who would you choose between Frankston playing coach and Geelong assistant coach? And he said, hey, laddie, I think I would take the assistant coach's role. You just don't know about football. He said, you miss a goal as a playing coach, and, of course, then the players look at you, and then the player misses it. You give him a bloody shot, and, of course, he goes, ooh, I think I'd take the assistant coach's job. So, of course, I had to stall Frankston for a couple of days, and they were ringing me. And anyway, I rang Rocky back and said, look, mate, I'm sorry, but I'm going to take the AFL job. And I think he was quite relieved because I think he thought I was stooging him for another VFL club or VFA club.
Yeah.
So, it all worked out fine.
Oh, sorry. I'll let you finish.
It all worked because 12 months later, I had the senior job at Geelong. So, again, Alan Jeans' wisdom was spot on.
Yeah, brilliant. So we were talking before the show, Gary. I think I tallied it up. So you chalked up as a player and a coach at the VFL, AFL, 700 total games a couple of years ago. So we did some quick maths and we brought you up to 739, which you've just pipped David Parkin at 729, and you're chasing Lethal at 793. So if you've got a few more seasons left in you, You might take Lethal down on that front.
Well, who knows, Matty? I might have to get the walkways changed down at Port Melbourne because they might be wheeling me in and out.
That's all right. If you ever go back to Hawthorn, mate, we've got the ramps put in for Burgoyne. So
Talking Hawks will sponsor, to get the ramps put in at the new setup for the Hawks. If you ever want to come back to the homeland, yeah.
Yeah, look, it does. It makes you reflect on obviously things that have happened over your journey. And I remember saying to someone just recently that because of COVID, it's been 42 years for me since I rolled into Hawthorn, and of course you have a lot of your weekends taken up with footy. And obviously when you're doing it, the way you are, well, then all of a sudden it's taken away from you due to, no one's fault, obviously. You do really miss it. And I've been lucky enough to be involved in something that I'm, one, passionate about, and two, love for 42 years. And, that was a guy by the name of Tony Jones who does the sport on Channel 9. And, of course, another VFL scribe in Paul Amy. So, yeah, you do. There's been a lot of good times over the journey, and they're far outweighed the bad times, that's for sure.
Well, how do you
compare playing in a premiership as coaching a premiership? Like, obviously, two different places to be in, but can you tell us how the feelings are different?
Yeah, I can, Chris. Playing is very individualistic, I believe. You are more concerned about what you're doing during the week, how you're training, how does your body feel, are you doing what's expected in your preparation? And, of course, you come the day of the game, and I always used to pack my bag the same way for game day. And, of course, back in those days, obviously it'd be your boots, your socks, towel, shorts, even threw the old jock strap in there too occasionally, and the mouth guard, and, of course, off you go. And all you really concerned yourself about from a mental preparation point of view is that you want to, one, understand and know who you're playing on, two, you want to beat him, and then three, you want to really do something for the team that helps you win. And whether that's, doing something from an inspirational point of view, or, chopping your man out, or, being involved in, I guess, the fundamentals of the game. And when you're playing a premiership, all that just comes together, because it's one of the most amazing feelings being on the MCG or Waverley as it was once you've won a grand final. And it's the complete opposite, by the way, when you lose a grand final, but it just is such an adrenaline rush. And, I just love that drug of winning and being on the MCG on, grand final day. Whereas as a coach, it's times by 23 players. It's about making sure your support staff are understanding of what goes on. It's your coaching staff, making sure they're right across your tactics and your game plan for the day. You're looking for a bit of luck because you don't want to get any of your players injured. And there's so much work that goes into it from an emotional point of view, and you can't do anything physical, whereas when you're a player, you can do a lot of physical stuff. And I used to quite like doing the physical stuff there out on game day. So there's a lot of times in the box where I've just been probably a raving lunatic, really, to be honest, because that's the emotion of, what you want to see your players do well and do not so well, or, you're riding the umpire's decision and, stuff like that. So, but when it all comes together, it's probably more, I guess, relief. And, that year for Port in 2011, when we were able to win our first flag for 29 years, that was on the back of an undefeated season. So we went 20-0, and obviously then we made it to the grand final, and there was a lot of people saying, oh, wouldn't it just be bad luck if you lost the grand final because you've won 20 games and all that? But I'd like to think I'm a man who looks at a glass half full than half empty. And, we went out. We were 5 goals down at quarter time, and then went on and kicked 20 goals to, I think, 7 or 8 in the next 3 quarters. So, it was a statement on behalf of all the VFL standalone teams, and certainly for Port to break the ice in 29 years. So first time in almost 100 years that someone had gone through at a high-level competition undefeated.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Yeah, such a great story. Now, Ezzy, you said that you love the physicality and you go crazy out there and you wonder why they call you Conan. But nevertheless, we're going to move into the next segment of the show. Matt, we've got the quick fire question, the shot clock for Ezzy there.
Well, look, the fans are firing lots of questions, Brad. I'm happy to do the shot clock, but
Do it.
Do you want to give Ayresy, a short period just to try and answer as many of the fans' questions? I think.
All right, we'll go through real quick. All right, Ayresy, one of the ones that's coming off here is I've got to find it. Sorry, Dan Riff, where are you, mate? Ayresy, do you consider? Here we go. Who would you consider the best defender in the AFL at the moment?
Harris Andrews is pretty good. He does some amazing stuff as a tall defender, but he's pretty good on the ground. So, but I do love the way McGovern from the West Coast Eagles plays, with his intercept marking and his anticipation. But I think, Harris Andrews seems to do most things right more often than not. And he's got a little bit of, how would I say, dirt in him too as well. He doesn't mind getting under the skin of those pesky forwards.
I don't mind this one by Matt Hawke there. Oh, you straight onto it, Brad. Go for it.
In your opinion, is it still reboot for the Hawks or is it rebuild?
Well, just seeing what Alistair Clarkson's done over a long period of time, I think it's more reboot. So a lot of their young boys, I guess, didn't come on as much as they would have liked this year. Segler had a broken toe and he was then toying with McAvoy playing in different spots. He's not young, but, Lewis, Warple didn't have the same year, he had. Hardwick probably didn't have the same year he'd had previously. Stratton was the same. Puopolo didn't play a lot. So I think it's more reboot, Mac, than rebuild.
Beauty. All right. Next one before we go into the quick fire. Ayresy, if it was your choice, would you have preferred to play more midfield time? Went bloody well every time you went in the guts.
Yeah, I probably would have preferred to actually be a little bit more in the midfield. But again, there were some amazing guys in there. And I guess I owe it to Yabby to say he finally found a position for me down back. But I didn't mind going in there when the opportunity arose.
Love it. Excellent. All right, Matty, over to you, mate.
All right, so Ayresy, I will just do a quick fire question. So give us the first thing that comes to mind, short and sharp. Away we go. So which was your favourite premiership?
All of them.
Mate, are you getting splinters in your backside from sitting on the fence?
Well, they're a bit like your children. I haven't got 5 children, but you love them all for different reasons. So, to be honest, man, I'd find it pretty hard to say which one gives me more joy because they all were great for different reasons.
All right. So what about favourite Norm Smith then?
86.
Very good. You say squads win premierships. Who was the most unlucky to miss out on a flag of your former teammates?
Robbie Dixon was probably unlucky.
Yep.
And Russell Shields, maybe.
Yep. Most skillful player you played with?
Darren Jarman.
Bigger impact on the playing group, Lethal or Tucky?
Tucky for longevity, Lethal for explosiveness.
Very good. As a coach now, your best tip for a young player?
Master the fundamentals.
And what did Jeansy do to get the best out of you personally?
Gave me some big challenges along the way, but also too, as a coach, gave me confidence.
Very good. Your best up-and-coming young Hawthorn player?
Will Day.
Next Hawthorn captain?
O'Meara.
Hey.
Career highlight?
Playing footy for Hawthorn.
Love it. And we'll finish on this one. Any passions outside of football?
Red wine.
Man after our own heart. Ayresy, thank you very much.
Awesome, Ayresy. Oh, mate, it's this is so good. We're still I don't know. It's something for me. I just feel like you still got another stint for AFL. Look, I don't want to mox it or anything, but I look at the coach of Brisbane, Fags. The guy's, I don't know his age, but he's not too far off yourself, right? Age-wise. And I just cannot see for the life of me why someone your age with your background and your skills couldn't be an AFL coach again. And there just seems to be such a deficit in the AFL at the moment. And I just think there's probably an appetite for it. So I wouldn't be surprised if you found yourself back into AFL again one day, because the wealth of experience that you've got there, it'd be a shame if it wasn't explored more, in my opinion. But what do I know?
Oh, thanks, Brad. I'll get you to be on my PR team, mate. Good on you.
Oh, don't you worry, I'll help. Yeah. Mate, I'm one of the most connected blokes in Hawthorn. I'll get this thing sorted. So.
Well, formats like this, boys, no wonder it's going out to all the masses. So who knows?
You've gone in the colours tonight for Port. So, Ezzy, you mentioned one of the partners of Port Melbourne. Do you want to tell us a little bit about RecLink?
Yeah, thanks, Matty. Look, one of our community partners is RecLink, and of course you can see obviously the link down there. And I guess it's all about the underprivileged people who we know are in our community, and of course they do amazing work in obviously making people feel that they've got some self-worth, and obviously they've been through some extraordinarily tough times, and the organisation does a lot of work with people throughout the community, and you can see obviously some of that there. So, and it's nice to work with people who are genuine grassroots people. So they do an amazing job. Get on the link. There's a lot of programs that are going on there as we speak because of COVID, and you can do yoga. You can obviously have a reflection for the day, a message for the day. They do a lot of work in sport in general. Peter Cullen's the CEO, and he does enormous work in the community by having a footy program, and there's a cricket program as well, as you can see there. So, yeah, it is a wonderful organisation. So, yeah, and being Port Melbourne, as I said, with the community partner, we do a lot of good work together, I guess.
Excellent.
It sounds great. $1 invested in their structured sports program delivers nearly $9 in social return in investment. So it sounds like a great organisation, Ezzy.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. While I'm there, if you can look on the polo too, the CFMEU, ETU, we obviously got them as a 3-year sponsor, and the Northport ground now goes by the name of ETU Stadium. So when COVID's lifted and we're back playing, and we want as many of our Port Melbourne family to get down there and enjoy a day at the well, I was going to say the VFL, but apparently there's going to be a name change, so I'm not sure what. But just get down there and support the mighty borough.
While you're plugging Port Melbourne, you've gone through some hard times. Obviously, not AFL affiliated, and not long ago you were struggling to pay your players at the start of the season. Can you elaborate on what it means to basically you've been the head of the club coaching them, and to drag them to be not funded and to win a premiership? That's just amazing.
Yeah, it's inspiring, Chris. And, there's a lot of things in this world that we can draw inspiration from. I went to India a few years ago, and I was on the steps of the Taj Mahal. And when you actually come from a lower level and then you step up the steps and you see something like that, it just blows your mind. And it's amazing what human minds and people can actually do, and I feel very similar about what the Port Melbourne boys do. They're my most valuable asset, and the club had lost $300,000, which is a lot of money to lose. And the boys and the coaching staff, we actually got together, that there was a lot of clarity about what was needed to be done, and the boys, instead of feeling sorry for themselves, they rolled their sleeves up, took it in their stride, and they played a game for nothing. And it was amazing that the boys decided to do that. And we played against the Northern Blues, who were coached by ex-Collingwood Josh Fraser, and he had a chat to me after the game. He said, we got AFL players running around there on big money. You boys are playing for nothing, yet you're still able to beat us. So, and as you said, we then went on and won the flag against Richmond AFL side that had 19 AFL listed players on grand final day. And it just says a lot about, I guess, the thing that we believe we have is that unique club feel, because we're not aligned with anyone and we just have to get the job done ourselves. And the standards and expectations are high. I learnt that at Hawthorn, and we don't tolerate fools. We don't like mediocrity, and it's in the DNA to be successful. Port Melbourne's the most successful VFL club with 17 flags. So there's a bit of pressure because the boys that came through in the 60s, 70s and 80s, they were winning premierships a lot of the time, similar to Hawthorn. And then there was a bit of a lull, and then, we were able to win 2011 and 2017, and we've been 12 years, not counting this year, at VFL level, and we've made finals 11 out of those 12 years. So it's amazing for part-time footballers. And again, I see so many similarities in the way Hawthorn's values are, the culture, the family club, and obviously what we try and do. And, it's a bit like the heavyweight AFL clubs against the lightweight boys off Struggle Street. But we keep being annoying. And, we keep being relevant. So, and hopefully we can do that for a lot longer to come.
Yeah. No,
I'd love to know, look, in your time there, you would have had a few young blokes actually go on to the AFL. Who have been the ones that have really stood out to you that have been like, it's this bloke was just built for it?
Well, probably the one that's obviously in the news, and congrats to him, is Brodie Mychek. If you saw what he did last night over in WA, and of course, finals I've learned over the years is about moments and big moments, and of course, if you play those well, it's generally the difference between winning or losing. And I thought Brodie played those moments unbelievably well last night, and went a long way into giving Collingwood obviously that win. So guys that have played through being associated with Port Melbourne, Callum Sinclair's now gone on and become a 100-game player at both West Coast Eagles and Sydney Swans. Sammy Dwyer played about 50 games for Collingwood. These boys have persisted and persevered. It hasn't come easy. Robin Nahas ended up playing probably close to 130 games at both Richmond and North Melbourne. And when you look at those boys, they do it tough because they've got to be unbelievably strong mentally, because a lot of the kids that come out of the NAB League, their whole world falls apart because they don't get drafted. And I think fundamentally we can be very good at communicating to the boys coming out of the NAB League that more of you won't get drafted and there'll only be a handful that will. And these are the options, and they are, coming to a VFL club and playing at the best level outside the AFL. So, it gives us credibility and a really good, hopeful destination club sign above the door at Port Melbourne, and people want to come there because, we're about improving. And again, one of my biggest philosophies is wanting to make sure that I'm part of seeing the kids that I coach achieve the same successes that I did over my journey. And some of the boys that I've coached now have become lifelong friends. I've coached them most of their adult life, and they've just gone on and, as I said, been premiership players, some two, some one. And again, they've kept Port Melbourne in pretty difficult times relevant, as I said before. So it's it's an amazing organisation. I love all my boys, and even the kids that are coming through now, they are indoctrinated in the same way as the boys were when we started back in 2008.
Yeah, mate, it comes through in spades, Ezzy. I think we will bring it to a bit of a close. There's plenty of questions coming through, but mate, your heart towards the people, you seem to be a man of the people, and obviously you've enriched a lot of clubs over the journey, and we wish you and Port Melbourne all the best, and you can tip off Righty if there's any good ones coming through the ranks there for the Hawks, and if you don't mind. But thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate the fans hanging around, but for you for giving up your time so much. We're very grateful.
Can I close with one more? Yeah. Can I close with one more? We didn't touch on John Kennedy Sr. at all tonight. Passed away during the year. How did he impact on your life and your career? If you can just quickly answer that one.
Great question.
Yeah, Chris, look, he was the godfather for obviously getting Hawthorn to earn respect, and that's what he basically said a lot of the times in a lot of different things, dispatches that I'd heard. He brought respect to the footy club in the late 50s, won the first flag in 61. I think it says a lot about the indelible imprint the Kennedy family has made because obviously we're going to have the new site out at Dingley, and of course that's called the Kennedy Community Centre, which is great recognition of a great man, great family. John Jr., he's president of the Past Players Association, and of course Josh has been an amazing player at Sydney, so they are a very, very special family. And for a lot of the things that Hawthorn have done, they have to start somewhere, and obviously you're always traced back where your roots were, and you never forget where you come from, and John was an integral part in that.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Thank you.
Love it.
Thank you very much.
Ayresy, thank you so much, mate. And it's been a real pleasure having you on. And I'm not going to harp on too much about it because Dipper might get upset. So, but certainly up there as one of the best interviews we've had, and certainly the most illustrious, most decorated that we've ever had on the show. And we're really grateful to have you here, mate. Thank you so much. And thanks to our viewers. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow. We are on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. We need to get the YouTube followers up. So if you don't mind, just take a minute to jump on and seek us out on the YouTube side as well. That'd be great. So anyway, thanks again, Ayresy. Thanks, Chris and Matt. And we will be back later on around draft time. We're going to do a recap around then as well, aren't we, fellas?
Sure.
Cool. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Brad. Good stuff.
Appreciate it.
Cheers.
Thank you.